This is an oral history interview with Miss Marianne Millette. The interviewer is Ryan McKinley. The interview is taking place in her home in Lafayette, California. The time is 10 o'clock a.m. The date is May 5th, 2014.
Signaled a while, so.
That's right, thank you.
Yeah.
When were you born?
I was born 1930 in Oakland, California.
And what were your parents' names?
Lucille, her maiden name, or?
Yeah, that's fine.
Lucille Boedo.
Okay.
And my father was Charles Malley.
Where were they from originally? Were they originally from Oakland?
Yeah, Oakland.
Okay. And had they been living in Oakland for quite some time by the time you were born, or had they just moved there?
I guess they were. Well, they lived there. My dad lived there all his life, and my mother was born in Napa, but she moved down there and was really from Oakland.
Okay.
In her school years.
What did they do or what did your father do for a living?
Well, he did a little bit of everything, I guess, but his father was a contractor, developer, I guess, and he did that, but he didn't like it.
Okay.
He just did. He sold cars, and I don't know what else he did. Oh, a florist. He used to be a florist too.
Oh, florist. Okay. And what did your mother do? Was she a housewife?
She was just she worked. She'd take the ferry across to San Francisco, and she worked for Southern Pacific Railroad in the office.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay.
Until she was married, and she never worked.
Okay. Do you know how your parents first met and things like that?
Well, I think they both would go to Sacred Heart Church, and they just knew sort of each other. And then they met later at a department store. They hadn't seen each other for a long time, and that's where they started to go out.
Okay.
And they were married.
And so when they were going to the church, was that when they were much younger, or they were?
Yeah. Well, my dad went to Sacred Heart School for a while, and then my mother went to Emerson, which isn't far away. It's in North Oakland.
Okay. So you grew up in Oakland?
No.
No. You were just born in
Oakland. I came out here when I was 2.
When you were 2, okay.
We came out here because I guess the Depression was at the peak right then. Mm-hmm. The Great Depression, I guess.
Yeah.
They call it. And so, and my dad, no work in Oakland, I imagine. Mm-hmm. And my grandfather had bought in Happy Valley, in Lafayette, I forget how many, loads of acres.
Oh, wow.
200 or more, I don't know. And he always had a caretaker taking care of it. He never worked at my grandfather. He just invested in, and I guess he planted all the pear trees, had them planted, and that's what he sold lots of pears.
Oh, okay.
It was a big. I remember the pears coming in, big semi trucks, and all the pears going out, and so.
Okay. So you moved here, and he became a pear farmer. Then that was his profession from then.
He took over the ranch. Sort of. They had. I don't know what caretakers they had. When I remember the caretakers, because my dad sort of ran it for a while, I imagine. And then the Japanese, the Mukonos that lived, well, he was from Japan, but his wife grew up in Happy Valley also. Mm-hmm. And they took care of the ranch. They were the caretakers for a long time until the war came. Mm-hmm. Then they had to go to the internment camp. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so growing up then in Lafayette, what do you remember before your school days? Do you remember anything like that of what you did?
Well, we lived, there wasn't a lot of people. I mean, there was homes, and we knew mostly, it's along, Happy Valley goes around. Anyway, we knew most of the people, even if we didn't know them personally, we knew their names, Mm-hmm. And there was usually row pairs between the properties, never a fence. Not like now, because we didn't have deer. They were up in the hills. Mm-hmm. But now, since progress, they have to find a place to live. Mm-hmm. And one just walked down the street this way.
Yeah.
But we never saw him here.
Wow, okay.
Uh-huh.
And so everybody around at that time were farming different things, or they were all...
Yeah, people were farming. When I remember, there was farms, well, we didn't call them farms, more like a ranch, and truck farmers, or pear ranchers. I mean, they planted, and walnuts, walnut trees. They made That's how they made their money. Okay. By growing walnuts. I know a lot of walnuts and loads of pears in Happy Valley, in Lafayette here.
Okay. Wow.
And truck farmers.
Truck farmers. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you remember any specific people you used to spend time with at that in that part of your life before you started going to school?
When I went to school, my older brother, I wish he was here. He knows a lot more, but he had to walk to school, or he lived 3 miles from school. But by the time I went to school, and my brother ahead of me, there was a school bus. Came through and took us to school. And once we got to school, that was it. We got home. My mother didn't drive, so when we got off the school bus, that's where we were, 3 miles from town, and never adventured down there. Except when we got older, we rode a bike sometime to town, to Lafayette. Mm-hmm.
So since you were so isolated, did you and your brother played on the ranch?
And my sister was 2 years younger. Yeah, my brother always had a horse or a pony, and then we're right in the backyard. And I rode a little bit, but I never cared to ride. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But my brother was, and then my brother loved to hunt. He always had a .22 rifle. He got when he was 12, I think, from my older brother. And we had guns in our house. No one ever shot each other. No one ever thought of it. Bullets everywhere, and we lived, I guess about 3 pair rows from the creek area, and we put cans down there, and I got to be a pretty good shot too. And we just shoot .22 at cans. Huh. Then pretty soon someone moved across the way up in the hill, and they asked if we'd stop shooting.
They don't want a stray going somewhere.
Well, it was just, little .22, I guess, it's pretty bad, but no one ever got hurt. And I think of all the guns now, everyone's so afraid of guns. And I just grew up with them, and they didn't mean anything to me, Yeah. We weren't out to kill each other.
Yeah.
Even if we were mad at each other, we never thought of a gun.
And so going to what elementary school did you go to?
I went Lafayette.
Lafayette Elementary School. And
it's the only one now. There was Lafayette, Walnut Creek, and Orinda, but now they've all closed, but Lafayette's still going.
Oh, really? Okay. What do you remember about the school from that time when you were first going there?
We went from 1st to 8th grade.
Oh, wow, okay.
We didn't have kindergarten. Or I didn't go to kindergarten. Maybe it was just too far from town. I don't know. But I think we all started 1st grade.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
went to 8th grade. And then from there we went to Ocklawane's high school.
Okay. So during your time in elementary school, is there any specific people or teachers that you remember interacting with at that time?
Well, no, they were just, seemed like they were ancient. I just remember that. And they were always, they taught my older brother, and they just seemed to stay. Mm-hmm. I guess stayed through. And then it started to grow after the war. I was still in grade school, and we had, then we got more teachers. Mm-hmm. And, it was just growing. It was just booming out here. The war brought in. I guess everyone that went to war sailed out of here or flown out, and they thought, that's a pretty good place to live. They all came back. I don't know if that's true, but I feel like that is it.
So, what grade were you in when the war started?
Oh, let me see now. I remember I was probably in 5th grade, and my friend was Ida Kaya. Then we had a few Japanese families here. Mm-hmm. And she was my best friend. And I remember I felt so bad that she had to go. It's strange, I think about it, And I thought, and then I wanted to give her a present, and my mother said no, because on our ranch, the Mukanos, who I said were caretakers, they had a wine cellar. I never saw the wine cellar, but it was down there. And they found all these pictures of the Bay Area, all on the coast. Mm-hmm. And then I found out when they came, she was an American citizen, but he wasn't. And then they went to the internment camp. When they came back, they went to Japan. I don't know, because of him or what, you know. And that's how it went. And a few years back, about maybe 10 years ago, I found out where they lived. And it was really sad because she was such a great lady, you know, and she was so American. But then she said, when I wrote the letter, she said all the little children in the little area she lived in wanted to hear the letter from America. But she said we're not allowed to speak Japanese. And, American, English, not as, they couldn't speak English in Japan where they were. And she said, I almost forgot how to write, but she wrote beautifully, you know, because she was American, and she went through Lafayette school, I guess, you know.
And those are the people that were the caretakers. Okay.
But they packed up and left. Well, they had to go, I guess, you know. So, but a lot of them came back here in the area, but they didn't. And their son Henry, they had a son. And I understand he was a doctor. He's still a doctor, I know, in Japan.
Okay.
But I think they've gone because I haven't heard from her for at least 10 years. So.
Okay.
So that's what I remember about the wartime, you know. And then my brother was drafted, my oldest brother, and he went on. And I thought it was exciting. And now I think how awful it was, you know. But I was young, and I didn't think anything of it, you know. The war.
And so, did that affect, you know, the pear business or
no.
anything like that?
Well, I don't know about that, but then my grandfather, about that time, I don't know when he started to develop a lot of the property up there. It was the Malley Estates, it was called, and he sold lots. And then he was starting to get rid of a lot of the property, but he still had a lot. There was a lot of hills and things, and then he sold huge pieces to somebody, and he developed it. That man developed, and then everything started to grow, and everyone coming out here. Of course, they built the tunnel. We used to go over the hill, which was scary. And then when the tunnel went in 1939, I don't know when it went in. I meant it was exciting, but I don't remember the year. And then that opened it up. Everyone can get here quicker than they used to.
So the tunnel was, or you remember the tunnel being about before the war then?
I remember the tunnel. I didn't want to go to Oakland very often because my eyes water like crazy. I have allergies. Anyway,
no problem.
I never wanted to go to Oakland, but where the tunnel is, on the left side, you'd go up and it was just a short little tunnel. But I remember it leaking water, and I remember that. But it was not a tree on the other side, and it was a scary road. That's what I remember. Okay. And then when the new tunnel came in, now we have how many? 4? I don't know.
Yeah. They just opened the fourth one.
Yeah, the fourth board. Yeah. So that's when it opened up out here.
Okay. And then, so and all through that war period, you just continued through Lafayette Elementary up until
and Ockalani, let's see, 40. The war, the war was, I don't know, 40. It ended, I don't know, in 44. I don't know when that war ended.
I think it was about 45.
And I was still at grade school.
Okay.
Then I went up.
Okay. So moving into Ockalani's High, was it similar? You thought the teachers were ancient as well?
No, no, they weren't.
Okay.
No, and it's strange. My son lives in Walnut Creek, and his neighbor about 4 doors up across the street, he was my typing teacher. He's still going. That makes me feel good. Wow. But he must have been young when he was there. You know? I was going to say something else about... and then Ockalani's was the only school here. There was no... Arinda came with us. Moraga. Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill. Everyone went to Acalanes.
Oh, wow. So the whole, almost the whole Contra Costa area.
Yeah, I mean, just in this area, but like I say, then it started to really build up. And then the Walnut, they got a high school in Walnut Creek, and then that took people away, and then, so that's how it happened. Now I think there's 4 high schools or more,
Oh.
So that, and Acalanes was a very unique school. It was flat, which a lot of schools are now. But I remember we had people coming through there all the time, from India and everywhere, to see how this school was. It must have been. Now it's just a regular school.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So you had a lot of visitors from outside?
Well, I don't know. They just seemed to come. It was fairly new because my oldest brother was the first class at Oakland
Oh, okay.
in 41, I guess, and then he went to the war.
Okay. So in 41, so it was built about.
It was he was the first class. It was probably being built in 39 or whatever, and then it was. He graduated in 41, I think. I think that's the first class.
Okay.
Or 40, I don't know. And my son was the 50th class.
Oh, wow. Okay. So before Acalanes, did you just stay at the
no,
same
what they
school?
had to do, they went to Monte Diablo High School in Concord.
Oh, okay.
And the Sacramento Northern, the other train, you don't know it used to come past St. Mary's College and into Lafayette and pick up. I don't know where it went. I think it was called the Sacramento Northern. I don't know. I never wrote on it. But that's how they went to high school.
Okay. So every morning they'd have to take a train all the way to
Yeah, they had to walk down the train. The only train that stopped just in back of Lafayette School, and then it had another stop. And then I've heard in some places they would be running for their train, and the house was close. And the train, they'd stop and pick them up. I mean, it would have been fun, but I didn't get to do that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It seems remote. I mean, it seems like so modern now.
Yeah.
And I just remember Lafayette being so friendly because we knew everybody. You go to town, you knew every storekeeper, and just not like that now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They come and go. Mm-hmm. I'm still here.
So at that time, like you said, when everybody started moving in, did you start to notice the shops being built up and things like that, or did they all try to be farmers?
Well, it didn't get built really fast. Yeah, I don't think. I mean, it was still small when I was a teenager, and then I guess we used to shop in Oakland or go to. I had never been to Concord until I was in high school.
Okay.
I went on a school bus to we played against Concord High School.
Uh-huh.
And it seems so funny, I go to Concord all the time now. Yeah. But it was away,
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, crazy.
Yeah. During your high school years, what were things you did, like, in your spare time and things like, pep rallies, football games, movies,
yeah, we
things
go
like
to,
that?
Yeah, we have football games, and we go to football games. And we didn't go far. I don't think. Then we played Piedmont High School. I remember that, but I never went there. But I only went to Concord, Monte Diablo High School for a football game. I just go to Acalanes because Mom didn't drive, and so, and my dad was busy, so he didn't even ask them to take us.
He was working too hard.
Yeah, I don't know. So that's all I can remember about what went on in my days, But I told somebody, I said my oldest brother would be great, but he lives in Manteca right now. But I don't know if he would. He probably wouldn't do much. He probably just the same thing I knew. We rehybridated up in Happy Valley.
Have you been back to Acalanes since you've graduated? I mean, I know your son.
Yeah, well,
there.
I have 6 children. We have, and my oldest one went to De La Salle.
Okay.
And then my daughter was going to go to Cronolette, and then she decided to go to Acalanes. So then the rest went to Acalanes.
Okay.
They all graduated from Oakland.
And has the school changed a whole lot since you've been there?
Well, yeah. No, we had a swimming pool, which was, but it has grown. Yeah, it has.
It's expanded. Okay.
Yeah, but it's still, I don't know, I haven't really been through the, I worked over there when they were in high school a little bit, just helping out, but it looked the same to me, more or less. Mm-hmm. Of course, they built a new gym, and so it has grown. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I guess they chose that area because it was centralized. Mm-hmm. So they knew all Orinda and everyone had to get there. So.
Mm-hmm. So when you were going there, though, it was about the same amount of buildings and things like that, or was it?
Yeah, I think the amount of buildings probably, it looks more or less the same. They might have added a couple towards Pleasant Hill. I don't know. And then we were, I think, when I graduated, there was like 150 in the class.
Okay.
My daughter graduated with 400.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like now.
Mm-hmm. I know that I had talked to somebody else, and they had graduated from Acalanes in the 60s, I think.
Okay.
They were saying that it was, their graduating class was like 370 or something like that.
Yeah, it really. And then when they built Miramont, they built over by Rossmore. What was that called? But Davalier, but it's closed now. It's kind of goes into Rossmore, so that one's closed. But when they closed Davalier, we had to absorb so many children, and they were furious. They had to come to Acalanes. I can just remember my daughter saying, "We have to give them special treatment." So they gave them the head of the blueprint and everything. They were really accommodating. Mm-hmm. If they went somewhere else, because the kids were just being bad, and they didn't want to be there naturally.
Yeah.
Even though probably went to school. And so then when they graduated, they wore the colors of Davalier. I mean, after you go to school for a year or two, you think. Anyway, Nat has settled down.
Wow.
Now I guess they can go to any school. I don't know. I think Capilindo and Acalanes you can choose, because they go to Stanley here now to, middle school or junior high, whatever it is. So they meet friends, and where are you going? Okay, I'll go to Capel too then. Or I'll go to Acalanes, So it's kind of separated Lafayette into 2 divisions, I think.
Okay. And so you graduated from Acalanes in what year?
48.
48. Okay. And then, did you go off to a university? Or?
No, I went to a business school. I got a job right away. So.
Okay. What did you study at the business school?
Well, it was just all kinds of things, and then there was a strike somewhere from like Safeway stores, but it was Hagstrom's, the same kind of stores though. And they needed someone right away, so I got a job real quick. So.
Oh, okay.
And I worked there until, then I met my husband there. He was a state Board of Equalization auditor, just out of college. But, so then that was it. I never worked again. I had all the kids.
Okay. You just mentioned your husband. What did, where did he grow up? And
he grew up in South Dakota.
Oh, okay.
And I guess his parents came here. I think I've heard the story that they came. Red's father used to deliver groceries in this little tiny town in South Dakota, Del Rapids. And he wanted to raise, and they said no. And then Henry J. Kaiser group came through and wanted workers out here. So he came out here and worked in the shipyards.
Oh, okay.
Then pretty soon, and then my husband finished high school there. He didn't want to come out here. So he finished high school in South Dakota. And then he went back for a year for college. Then he came here and he went to San Francisco State.
Okay.
His brother went to Cal, so they just became Californians.
And he just happened to be
well, he was the junior auditor.
Okay.
And he was auditing the books there, so learning to be an auditor.
Okay.
And then he got to be the top fellow eventually. When I met him, he was just a little fluffy. So that's what he did for a living.
Okay. And then shortly after you were married and you had children, and then you stayed home with the children.
Yeah, I never worked again. No.
Okay. And at that time you were living
Well, we were living in Lafayette. We lived in an apartment first for a year and a half, and then we moved with my mother and dad because we were going to go on vacation for a month with his parents. We weren't going to rent that apartment because it cost money. Yeah. So we moved in with my parents. Okay. And then 6 months later, I guess we rented a little house by the Roundup.
By the Roundup? By the bar? Okay.
Yeah. a little tiny cottage. And then we had 3 children there, and then we built this house.
Okay. And the apartment that was on Mount Diablo Boulevard
No, we lived in Oakland in an apartment. But
okay.
Here we lived in a little cottage. It was just a string of little cottages.
Near the Lafayette Square, that's probably all.
Yeah, that's
right
it.
Now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I could tell there's one tree there. I said that's where our bedroom was. Between what is it? Chow's and something else.
Okay.
The hamburger place or something.
Okay. And when you were living in Lafayette at the time, was that when it was kind of developing? I know you said it was a very slow development earlier.
Yeah, well, it seemed like it was always Lafayette, and now all of a sudden it's really developing. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're building everything. Yeah. All the apartments, and we can't even move in Lafayette. Mm-hmm. Mm. All the restaurants. That's how they survive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So many restaurants in Lafayette.
When you were living near the Roundup and things like that, it was still pretty simple.
Oh yeah, it was very still smaller. I'd say so, because Fiesta, where Chow's is and all that, that was just there was a grocery store. Now it was kind of like a parking lot. It wasn't. There was no other stores. Mm-hmm. Just a little grocery store and a hardware store on Raga, facing Raga. Yeah, then it. Yeah, we went, and it's funny because we even knew a lot of people, a lot of store owners then, but now.
No, it's nothing.
No. Yeah.
And that time, what drew you to up here in this area and to build a house? Were they opening this area to develop, or?
Yes. Well, the strange part is all this development here. My grandfather's best friend. My grandfather bought loads of property, Happy Valley, and Hamlin, which is Hamlin Road. Mm-hmm. Dr. Hamlin was my grandfather's friend, and he bought all of this around here. This property this here, and Silver Springs, and all that. And then he started to develop his properties, too. Because there was a horse show right up as you come into Solana Drive. Famous horse show in Lafayette we had. And that was really exciting times. But that's when it was... I don't know when I guess when they started to develop, the horse show left.
So it was like a ranch, or like they
I don't know what
area,
I just think they had in here. A friend of mine was born right down in Silver Springs at a dairy that her family rented from Dr. Hamlin. And he had a dairy there. I don't remember the dairy, but I know she went to school with me, but I don't remember ever seeing the dairy. And then I guess when they started to develop, he had to move and go. He went to Concord, and everyone was coming out here.
Okay. I'm curious. Did you ever attend the horse show? I never heard of this
I did.
Horse show.
The horse show. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I attended it. Yeah, it was. It was famous. And the parade was. I mean, it was very famous horse show. And. My brother was we were in the parade once. My brother and his friend built, they had a ranch here. Jack's friend had a trailer like, and a hay, whatever, I don't know. And they covered it over, and they made and we all rode in the parade. Yeah, I remember that. And Jack used to enter his horse and do things, but not me. But I go to the horse show.
And it was like an annual thing?
Or it was annual. It was very famous.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I don't know when would that end. Probably the late 40s, probably. Yeah, probably. I don't know when the last tour show was.
So it would have been shortly after you were out of high school it ended?
Yes, probably. I would think around. Maybe just before I was out. Maybe during I was out of high school, it ended. You know, it's hard. I don't know. I can't remember that. All of a sudden there was homes.
Yeah.
But see, everyone had horses, and up in where I lived, everyone had a horse. They were riding all the time. Boys and girls had horses. Mm-hmm. And then it just got to be girls mostly. Yeah.
Okay. And so all through this time, your parents kept that pear farm? That was
my grandfather did. We lived on it. We never... and we lived in the original ranch house, I guess it was. And then my brother built a house. Grandpa gave him a piece of property, and he built a house, and he couldn't sell it for $15,000. Now it probably is $2 million. Anyway, almost that. And so we moved into there because my aunt wanted the other house, so it was a crazy time.
Okay. So you mentioned your grandfather. What did he do?
He was quite a developer. I mean, he worked hard. He had no help from anybody, but he really made it.
Okay. And that's your mother's father?
My father's father.
Your father's father. And he was he from the area originally? Or
yeah, he's from Oakland, West Oakland, and then he lived up on Lakeshore Avenue. He owned a lot of property on Lakeshore Avenue in Oakland. He was one of 6 or 7 boys in the family, and he was the second oldest, but he's the one that really, he just did it right. Mm. But he hired his brothers as carpenters, and they built homes, and Piedmont, there's a lot of homes up there he built, and so that's how he made his money. Okay. And with the ranch, the property in Happy Valley.
So how did he, afford to buy these properties and things like that?
He would just work hard.
Oh, okay.
And save his money and invest in things. I never saw him without a tie on and a suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he must have worked hard before when I was younger, that I don't even, maybe before I was even born, you know.
Yeah. And that...
He worked his way up, in other words.
And so that was your father's father?
Yes,
Did you have much contact with your mother's parents? Or?
I didn't know them. I knew my father's parents. My grandmother died when I was 9, so I remember her, you know. And I know my grandfather, I guess I was 21 or so when he passed away. But my mother's parents, they were from Italy, and they just were, I guess, I just seen pictures of them, you know. I don't.
And so your mother's parents immigrated here, or?
Yes, they immigrated here. And then my grandfather's parents are the ones, they immigrated from Ireland.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Do you know by any chance what your great grandparents did when they came over here? Yeah, as immigrants.
No, I don't know. I guess I could look on the census. It will say something what they did.
Okay.
I don't know what. I have no idea. What okay. I never even thought. I don't know how my grandfather got into building. You know, I guess it was probably a good time then to start to build. I'm sure my dad was in the early 1900s. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he started building. Okay. Yeah, probably turn of the century. He started to build things. I don't even know.
Okay.
That's strange. I never thought of that. What they did. I know how they came here because they were probably sent out because they no potatoes or something. Went to the potato famine. They came. I don't know.
Okay.
And I know they didn't go to Ellis Island because that was before. They came before Ellis Island.
Oh, before it was established.
Yeah, I'm sure they came before Ellis Island. And even my Italian, I don't think they came through Ellis Island either. Some of the Irish came around the Horn, I know. That's all I remember, one side of the Irish.
Okay. And so how long did you, your family keep the pear farm going?
It was, I don't know, I just know it from the time I can remember. I came when I was 2 from Oakland here, and it was always the pear ranch. And they would come in and we had Filipinos were the workers. Okay. And they'd get, it was hot season when you pick pears. It's always August, end of July and August. And they would live on the ranch on the lower, well, there was 2 areas. We lived one part of Happy Valley, and the other ranch was further down with the barn and the horses and everything. And they would stay there the whole time. When it's time to prune everything, loads of trees to prune, and then they come when it's time to pick.
Okay. So they would kind of come at a certain point and then leave.
Yeah, just like they do now, I think, down in all the... but they were all Filipinos.
Okay.
And we got to know them. I remember one used to come and give my brothers their haircut as extra money he made. Mm-hmm. You know, strange. And then they'd bring us, that's what they did, because then they'd work on the asparagus fields, because then they'd bring us big cases of asparagus, when it weren't working the pears. Mm-hmm. Season was over. Mm-hmm. So you got to be friendly with them. Mm-hmm.
And did that continue? It was always Filipinos growing up?
Always Filipinos. Never, they were just Filipinos all the time. And lots of them. A lot of them. And the Japanese ran Sam and Rosie Mukino ran the ranch for my grandfather. Mm-hmm. Then my dad came in when they had to be sent to internment camps. Mm-hmm.
And then your father ran it for the rest of the time?
For a few years. And then Frank Shores, who was a family in Happy Valley, he ran the ranch for a while too, in between the Japanese and Dad and whatever. Yeah, he ran it for a while. Then it got down to little, and then my brother Jack, who was 2 years older than I am, he wanted to quit school, so he quit school. And he ran the ranch. Mm. That was when hardly anything was left, most of the property was sold or it wasn't subdivided.
Okay.
But my grandfather did. They built homes for sale too. When they subdivided, they built, I think, 4 homes for sale. And then people would come and buy lots.
Okay.
I remember we had the map. I don't know where the map is, but they'd come in and they'd look at the lot, then they'd buy a lot. And then they'd build their house.
And that when they started to subdivide it, that was...
that was subdivided. I think I might have been still in grade school when they were starting to subdivide, right after the war, Okay.
Your family stopped growing the pears like in the 1950s or something like that, or they just continued on a smaller piece? Or?
My dad, no, he did something else. Oh. He opened a bar on Monteable Boulevard. Let's see. Well, it's in between Lafayette and Orinda. And that worked out quite well for him. Oh. That's what he did for quite a while. Because there was no more ranch to do, There wasn't much to do on that. Okay. It's hard to look back and think, of something that might be interesting.
Yeah. You can go back a little. So the Mukinos that ran the ranch at the time, did all the other farms as well employ Japanese to run their farms?
My grandfather had the biggest.
Oh, okay.
And he always had the caretakers. The other ones, the castles still are up there, and they're they just divided the property. It was 5 of the siblings in there, and they even they do a little bit on their own. They come and meet there and have lunch, and they plant their little vegetables and stuff. But that was about, most of them did. Like I said, Frank Shores took over running the ranch. Mm-hmm. Well, his family had a ranch not far, but they did it themselves. They were from Portugal, and they just maintained it themselves. And that's how they raised. I know they had milk. Oh, and then we used to get, I don't like milk because we have to, we only had an icebox. And we get milk at the Santas's, not too far from we had to walk up there or drive up there. And at the end of their driveway would be this can of milk in something. And to me, it was always sour. It wasn't pasteurized, and I still don't like milk.
Wow, okay.
And then Mother finally bought, chocolate milk. Good, we get that. Not out of all out of the cow, but this one came out of the Santa's cow. Yeah. And it's funny when you think about it. Even hot chocolate I didn't like.
Wow.
Well, you'd get it. I know how long it would get there, how they'd keep. Mother had an icebox. People next door, not too far away, they had refrigerators, but we still had ice. Then finally we got an icebox. A refrigerator. And then she'd buy store milk. Mm-hmm. I guess the Santas went out of business too. But it's funny when you think about it. How it changed so quick in a way. Mm-hmm. I guess it's doing the same thing now, but it's not as noticeable.
Yeah.
It's just when if we finally meet Walnut Creek, it will be noticeable.
Just everything will become one giant city.
Like East Oakland or something. So my grandfather always talks about East Oakland. It was was it Fruitvale Avenue? I guess it's Fruitvale Avenue. It was where all the prize fighters lived, he said. And it was dirt road. Just a dirt road. And when you see now how much it changed. Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess my grandparents, my Irish grandmother, she was raised in San Leandro, and Dad always talked about the ranch out there. And then that ranch has, our name is out there because that's where the Morgans lived. My grandmother's name was Morgan, so it's Morgan Avenue.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I haven't been on it, but that's where the ranch was. I guess like I call the Santas lived there, and that's how they get their names.
Okay. Do you know anything about how they named that? Did just somebody decided to pick?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know. Unless they said, well, that's where the Morgans live. Well, I think there was 13 Morgans or something, and they can't forget them. And so I don't know. That would be interesting to know too. I never thought of that. Where they, I guess, it was very country. Now that's the same way. No more country there. And then I remember I was just telling my brother, I had a bathing suit here, I don't want to show you. But anyway, I was into my friends were married, and I was younger. And so I went with them. I stayed with her. He was in the Navy. That was it. What was I going to say about that? Oh, I know. She was going to make me a dress, a Hawaiian. And they didn't have patterns in the stores made up. We had to go to a bakery, and they opened a drawer. This is 1951, we'll say. And there were some patterns you could buy. And now they got popular. Hawaii got popular, and patterns everywhere.
Yeah. I think you can buy them right down the street now.
I know. It was, and then it was, I bought the pattern and went to through a men's barber shop. I remember that. And in back were all these Hawaiians, little ladies sewing. They'd go measure, and I had the dress of the day. They're really clever.
That's great.
And I still have it because it was so, it was really nice. But they knew what they were doing. So that's Hawaii, though.
Yeah.
We're talking about Lafayette.
No. We're talking about you. So. So in that time, so I'm curious, how long between your graduation of high school and when you got married? How many years was that about?
Let's see. I graduated 18. I got married at 24.
Okay.
6 years.
About 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And in there you went to a business school for...
Yeah, for about just a year, not even that, and then they needed, and I got my job and I stayed there, I was lucky.
Okay. And so in that time you were just working. Did you do anything else at that time?
No, come home, stay home. I didn't have a car. I never bought a car. I used to take the Greyhound bus to Oakland. And I think now my kids would want me to drive, not now, they're grown, but driving right down to BART, you know. I walked down Happy Valley Road and got on the Greyhound bus down there. And my dad could be in bed. You know. How our younger generation is spoiled. I was just in between there.
Sure might. I'm just trying to imagine every morning taking a Greyhound from here to Oakland.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I had high heels on. I'd walk down. But then I got in with a neighbor was going into Oakland. I could walk down to her house and get off somewhere in Oakland and get a key system bus to work.
Okay.
That's what I did.
And what exactly did you do at the store? Were you
I worked in the office.
Oh, you worked in the office.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious, since that chain and company, you said it was like Safeway, but it wasn't Safeway.
Well, I understand that, what I've heard, Mr. Hagstrom had lots of stores way back before I went there. And Safeway was coming into the area. So he sold. He sold his, I don't know how many stores he had. But when I worked, and then he reopened under his name. And he had like 60 stores.
So he had sold to Safeway, then he opened up a new company.
Yeah, and he put it under his name. I knew it was the Mutual Stores or something like that before. That's what when he first came, he came from Denmark, and he did that. So he did quite well.
But they were just large grocery stores.
Yeah, it's just like just
Exactly.
Safeway and Hagstrom's were sometime right next to each other in Walnut Creek. Hagstrom's was here and Safeway was here. And then when he sold them all, so and then he sold that to, I don't know. Now Safeway's going to do whatever.
Yeah.
They're having their problems. So
I'm just curious. You've done some work. I'm just curious about that point in your life. What was it like being this working lady and for 5 years? And
it was fun. I mean, I lived home. Never had to pay rent. Why would I move? And my sister always lived home too, and my brother Jack too, until he got married and we moved out.
So you have 3 other siblings, or 2 brothers?
Yeah, there was 4 of us.
Okay, 2
my
brothers.
oldest brother, and then my brother next. There's a big difference between our older brother and me, and the 3 of us were close.
Oh, okay.
And Chuck was.
So how old was
He's 91.
your oldest brother?
Okay. And he is unbelievable. You should have him here. He knows everything. He's just moving now to Oklahoma again.
Oh, okay.
He just left there about 3 years ago. Wow. Moved to Manteca. And he was a contractor also. He's a builder. So now he's having a house built in Oklahoma. He just sent me a card. And he said he's having a storm cellar because he wants one of those in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. I can't believe he's doing that at his age.
Yeah.
But he's very young.
And he was the one who served in World War II? Or that was
he was in World War II.
Okay.
Then my other brother, he was drafted. And my older brother he joined. I remember the war, I guess, I don't know, I was didn't pay much attention to what was going on in the world when I was in 5th grade. But Chuck wanted to join the Navy, and my dad said, "You're not joining the Navy. I won't sign for you." So Pearl Harbor came. The next day he signed up for 6 years. I think he was sorry. He was showing my dad something, but he ended up 6 years.
Yeah.
So he got his fill of the Navy. And then Jack was drafted, and he never liked to swim. And Chuck wanted him to join the Navy because you always have a bed, he said. But no, he went in the Army. But he never went to the Korean War. He was always stateside. So that was lucky. But my brother, he saw a lot of battles in World War II.
Your oldest brother?
Yeah. But didn't seem to harm him. He doesn't have any of that what all the soldiers are having now. But they see a lot more, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. I guess if you're in the Navy, you're in a lot of battles, but you're not on the ground.
Yeah.
No.
And so, what did your sister do?
They needed someone else, and Patty was in between jobs. She just never liked to do any office work, but that's what she was doing. So there was an opening, so I went to my boss at Hagstrom's, and they weren't not going to hire people siblings, because Mr. Hagstrom, everyone from Denmark worked there. I think so. So, but they said, okay. So she came to work where I worked until they closed.
You stopped working there about 1953 or something like that? 50?
See, when I worked there in I started Hagstrom in 49, maybe, almost the end of 49.
Okay.
And I worked until, 5 years? No, what did I have? You had to have 10 years to get Social Security.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
And then I worked after I was married for a few years. I didn't have children right away. And so I needed one more quarter to make 40. So they set home work for me to do.
Oh, wow.
So then I got my 40 quarters.
Okay.
I don't know, something like that happened.
Okay. So technically you worked there for about 10 years, but...
Yeah, I would say about 10.
Okay.
Almost 10 years. Yeah, just about 10 years. Might as well say 10 years. I didn't know I worked there that long. I'm tired.
Okay. Interesting. That's pretty much all of my questions.
I guess there's nothing much. I don't know too much about, just little things like I said. Well, I can remember one thing, maybe this is probably not too interesting, but I remember it was on a Sunday when Pearl Harbor happened. We were watching one man's family or something. Not watching, listening. And it was so exciting for me. I thought it was wonderful. They turned off all the lights on the Bay Bridge, and everything was getting dark, I guess, because they didn't know if they were coming here after doing Hawaii. But I just remember that was very exciting. And when you think now, how exciting was that, Marianne? It wasn't.
So did you have to? I know some people have said they had to black out the windows.
Yeah, they had blackout. I know some man. His place was really blacked out up in Happy Valley, but we didn't really do that. I don't remember doing that. And then, have you ever heard of Port Chicago blast?
No. What is that?
Well, Port Chicago is over by Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And there was a huge blast. We thought we were being bombed. It was horrible. Broke windows in Lafayette. It was really scary. Mother had us all sitting out in the back stairs, and it was very scary. But it wasn't. No one was coming after us, but it felt like they were,
So that was it was just an accident?
It was a big, something on a ship in Port Chicago, just over the hill Concord. As you go down, Port Chicago's to the left, and blew up.
Oh, okay.
Just a freak accident that, I don't know how many, I think it killed a lot of people. I don't know the details on that, but that was one thing that kind of was scary there. Yeah, I don't remember too much. I don't think we blacked out too much, I guess. But we had, what were they called, wardens or something? In case something happened, they would tell us, I guess, but nothing ever happened.
You mean like somebody
in the area? There'd be
drive
someone
around
in charge or something. I just remember something like that. Because I said I was only 5th grade then, so I didn't even think about it, you know.
Did you have, when you were older, like in the 50s and stuff, did you have those like bomb scares and things like that where they they were afraid of the...
No, nothing. I thought that Port Chicago was really early, you know. It was early. We didn't know what happened, you know. It was just, and just communication, there was no television, you know. It was, But that's the only thing I remember about it. Well, that means you've been here an hour. My mother loved this clock. Sometimes it drives me crazy, but I hate to get rid of it. But certain show, there's one show I watch. I don't watch television very often. It's at night. And it must be 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. That thing, I'd like to throw something at it. I can't turn it down, and it's just run by battery. Crazy.
Was it some kind of heirloom or something?
No, it's not even an heirloom. She sent away for it.
Oh.
And she got 2. Well, one's gone now, but this one maybe it's on its last leg. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my daughter went all 4 years.
The same one.
And then Joe went DVC and then went to St. Mary's. Then he became a baseball player, and then he went to work for Chevron. And he wanted to try out at a tryout camp, you know. Mm-hmm. Try out here, didn't make it, went to Los Angeles, and someone said, we have to have that arm. And he made it to the Phillies.
Oh, wow.
Shortstop. For a half a year and another half a year. So that was fun. It was fun watching him.
That's cool.
And then Ted just went there. And his wife went there for her master's, I guess.
So this will probably be my last question.
Yeah.
So your children, I know you have 6 of them, but do they still live in this area?
They all live. They all live so close. And I tell this joke. I say, well, I'm having them all come in, and one can't come. I said, oh, that's too bad. One less piece of chop or something. No, they all live Walnut Creek, Oakland. Mm-hmm. My daughter lives in San Francisco. Okay. So she worked for, and she got a good job at St. Mary's. Mm-hmm. She took paralegal extra, and then she went to work for these attorneys, and now she's head of all the attorneys and so it's been wonderful. Okay. So she was lucky. She got a good job.
So you think they stayed in this area to be near Lafayette, or it
I don't
just
know.
happened that
they
way?
Just didn't. Well, Tom went to work for Chevron, and Joe did too, and Tom is still at Chevron, and Ted with PG&E. And who are the other ones? Tim has his own little gardening business. And then, let's see, Tony, he didn't go to St. Mary's. He went to USC, and music. And so he's pastoral associate or something at Santa Maria in Arinda. Okay. But he does more than the music. He almost runs the place. So he has a good job too. So they just all stayed. And then Joe married my daughter's roommate at St. Mary's, and her family owns the Concord Iron Works. So Joe's learning the iron business. The whole family works there, so So they all stayed.
Okay.
We don't have to fly anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, very good.
I think that's it for me. Thank you so much for this.
Yeah, well.
Let's see. Interview ends at 11:05 a.m.
Very good.